Hey guys, welcome back to the shack. It's been a week or two and I promised you guys that I would kind of bring you along on my adventure of learning the world of CNC. Now, it's been a lot to learn, guys. But tonight I wanted to do a video and kind of let you know how my progress has been coming with the new machine that I've got. And for those of you that aren't familiar, I've got the Smart Genmitsu 4040 Pro. They sent it out for me to test and have fun with and figure out if that's what I wanted to do, is get a CNC. And so far, guys, I'm enjoying it. But for you laser guys that have thought about getting one, and maybe you're looking at something small like this one, we're gonna go over the pros, the cons, the things that I've learned so far, the things that are gonna have to be in your mind when you go into this to try to learn it, and some of my findings, some of my projects, and some of the soon-to-be upgrades to the Genmitsu 4040 Pro. So if that's something you're interested in, stick around and we'll get right back. I have been using the machine in its base configuration, the way it was sent to me, and kind of learning it as I go. And we're going to touch on several topics in here, and there's going to be differences in this machine versus a laser. Okay, it's a whole nother ball game. Yes, they're very similar. They look a lot alike, but you have a lot more variables, such as with a laser, the beam width pretty much just stays the same. You have two variables. You have power and you have speed. Those are the only two things that you can really change with the laser. Lasers also have these really helpful tools such as framing and cameras that you can put in light burn that makes alignment really easy. Okay, with this CNC, I don't have that. I haven't found an option for a camera, and I haven't found an option to frame. So those are things that you're going to have to kind of overcome as you move from a laser into CNC. The other and the most, I guess the most confusing part is going to be that, instead of a laser, you have a flat graphic and you burn it and it has square corners and all that. But with the CNC, the cut that you get depends on the bit that you use. And there's a multitude of bits that you can use. Now, there's pretty much, there's probably 10 or so more common bit designs as far as the way the bit functions and what the purpose of the bit. But you have 1/4 inch, you have 1/8 inch, you have 1/16 inch, you have flat tip, you have round tip. You got a whole bunch of different design bits. Each bit is going to come out with a different product depending on whether it's text or whether it's a design. They all have different characteristics. Some are going to cut really fast, but not real smooth. Some are going to cut really smooth, but not real fast. These are all things that you're going to have to learn about a CNC. And I'm still learning it. I'm going to bring you guys along, hopefully as I learn, and just kind of give you from my experience as a total CNC noob, what to expect and what those little hurdles are going to be as going from a laser to a CNC. You're going to have to do a lot more measurements. You're going to have to work with a lot more measurements because in order to place your design, you're going to have to measure your stock. You're going to have to put it in the software. And when you start placing things, especially if you're engraving something that, say, it's already engraved and you're adding to it, you don't have a camera, okay? You've got to measure everything, kind of lay it out in the software and make sure you got all your measurements right. So there's a lot of variables, but there's a lot of similarities too. The software is relatively, I'm using easel right now because so far it seems to be the one that's catching my eye the most. And so far there's some similarities in the software and the way that it works, but there's a lot of big differences too. I have found that you can use light burn for design and then export it as an SVG, bring it in the easel, and then assign it a depth, assign it the bits and so forth, and fix that into a design for the CNC. So that was something pretty handy because it does cooperate with light burn on that aspect, because I feel much more comfortable designing in light burn than I do trying to design something in easel. So there's that. But let's get to the equipment and kind of go through what I've learned about the equipment, and then we'll try to move this along. All right, guys, so to start off with, I have been running the machine with a stock spindle on it since I got it. Now, I did get the collar for the bigger router, and I am going to upgrade it, but I wanted to kind of learn the ropes and figure this thing out, do some testing with the stock configuration. That way I could get a good idea of, maybe something they could do to improve it or make it a little easier, user-friendly, whatever the case may be. So I've got the machine set up here. I did get me a table to mount it to, and I went ahead and, like I said, I told you in the video before, I made a spoil board cover, or a spoil board here to go on top of the bed so that I don't cut the panels that came from the factory. I do have a piece of, I think this is about 6mm MDF here, so that gives me a little margin of error. So if I do cut that, that's something I can rip off and replace without a whole lot of trouble. So that was a good thing. So far I haven't really cut into it, but I can see it happening. Mistakes do happen. I've also got me a little keyboard in here, and my computer's on the other side over here. And so when I'm trying to set this thing up and make sure I'm exactly on the corner of the material, I have found that having a keyboard or a controller or whatever you may have here with the machine makes things a lot easier. So that's one of those things that you may want to keep in mind, is you're going to want a way to work in it. And you can get a like a video game controller and map the buttons to do the controls in the software, or just use a keyboard. I already had the keyboard. That was a cheaper approach for me to go, and so that's the way I did it. And it works the same as the keyboard at the computer. Arrow keys and then shift up and down moves the Z-axis, and I can aim the machine to my work 0 and get it lined up. And so far I've had really good luck with it. And when I'm not using the keyboard, I just close the drawer back. So that might be something you want to consider. But I have been, since I've had the machine, it came with these bits right here is what it came with. And it came with 3 of them. All right, I'm going to kind of show you what this thing looks like. All right, so if I can get it to focus. It came with 3 of these. Okay, that's what the machine shipped with. That's what I've been using. They've got it marked on here as a flat bottom sharp knife, 4 by 30 by 0.01 by 48. Okay, I was using these things in the very, very beginning of having this machine, and I will tell you, go ahead before you pull your hair out, guys, and order you some bits. I ordered some other bits, but I still didn't have a bit for every design that I did. I've got several packs that I've ordered here, but I'm going to show you the ones that changed it all for me. Okay, I ordered these little triangle bits here, and it was a game changer. Okay, this bit, what I have found is that in order for this bit to do what I was needing to do on engraving, it was having to go so deep to do the engrave because of the angle. That is a variable that I had no experience with, guys. I come from lasers, okay? The laser beam is consistent. It is the same size every time. It just depends on how many passes you need to make. With CNCs, it's a lot different. The shape of the bit, the size of the bit, all of these things are going to make a difference in the quality of the engrave, the time that it takes for the engrave to complete. You're going to want something that's going to get through there quick, but then you're going to want to go back and kind of fix things and polish things up. So you're going to have what they call a roughing bit, and then you're going to have a detail bit. And luckily, I've kind of started experimenting with that. I'm getting better at it. Still not great. Even with these bits, my selection of bits was very limited. But I don't want to invest a whole lot of money in bits for this spindle because I'm planning on taking it off and putting the DeWalt on there as soon as I get a little more comfortable with the machine. I figure at this point of learning, I'm less likely to tear up a lot of stuff with the smaller spindle and the smaller bits than once I start playing with something bigger. So that's one thing I will tell you is if you're going to get one of these guys, go ahead and get you some of these little V-bits like this to learn with. These things are really handy. Once you go in the software, you put the measurement of the bit, the angle of the tip in there. I'm running easel right now, and it makes life a lot better than these bits. If I had to knock Genmitsu on anything, or SaneSmart at anything, at this point, it would be maybe throw in an extra pack of bits. You know, throw in a little more variety. I did order with the machine, and like I said, I know this is a budget machine, and maybe they assume that you already have bits. I did order Genmitsu's bit pack, and I've got a lot more. And I'm having to learn what these bits are, guys. These bits, you have a single flute upcut, you have square bits, you have round bits. There's a whole bunch of bits. So if you're coming over from lasers, instead of having to learn, you know, how wide your kerf is of your laser, you're going to have to learn bits. Okay, bits are very, very important. It's very important, one, for you to know which bit you're using when you're running a job, but when planning that job, it's very important for you to know which bits you're going to want to use to do what. Because if you're doing a large project, like I said, you're going to want to have a roughing bit and then a detail bit. So with the roughing bit, you're going to put that guy on there. It's going to do the majority of the digging. It's going to do all the heavy lifting and get the most material out that it can without destroying the detail. Then you're going to have to swap the bit, put the detail bit on, and let it finish. And what that'll do is it'll go in and remove those small parts that bit was just too big to remove, and make everything a little cleaner and clean it up really good. So the problem I ran into, I mean, some of these bits were okay at detailing. I just never could quite find the right settings for them. I found that I had better luck with the V-bits at being able to find a setting that worked in easel, because I haven't quite learned all of the ins and outs of the blades. Easel does a pretty good job in the tutorials of explaining the difference in the bits, but still learning, guys. Very, very new at this. But if I could advise you of anything, if you get one of these, go ahead and get yourself a set of these little, it ain't got to be these brand, but get yourself a little set of V-bits. The V's, like I said, these have, I think it's 90, 60, 30, and a 15-degree bit. And it makes a world of difference in the time, how many passes the machine has to make. And it comes out with some pretty good engraves so far. Now, like I said, I've got some more bits that I've got, and I expect to be able to go even faster once I swap over to the DeWalt. So I'm gonna move you over here, just kind of show you some of the projects that I've gotten so far, and maybe discuss some more of the things that, you know, you need to know before you go to trying to go from lasers into CNCs, because that's kind of where I wanted to go with this video. Is if you're planning on coming over from the laser world to the CNC, these are things that you definitely may need to know about. So, all right, guys. So my very first attempt at this went horribly wrong, and just was a disaster. And I had to make some room in the shop, so it went to the burn pile. But this was my very first successful engrave with the CNC. And guys, I did this with that bit that come with the machine, and I didn't really expect it to turn out well. I did it on the back of a piece of material I've been practicing on, and I expected it to end in total destruction. Hindsight, I kind of wish I'd have used a regular piece of wood. But I'm gonna paint this thing up and mount it, and hopefully we'll be the only ones that'll ever know that there's some tests on the back of it. But this is some of my early testing that I was doing, just playing around, trying to figure things out, figuring out the depth of how deep I needed to go. And the depth that you need to go to have a legible text is one of those things that's gonna fall back on that bit selection. You have to select the bit based on how you want the cut to turn out. And I'm still learning it, guys, but these are things that I can tell you you're gonna need to be practicing these, learning these, studying them, because it does make a difference. But all in all together, it did a really good job. I mean, I was really, really happy with this once it finished. It turned out really nice. This was a piece of 1/2-inch MDF, and I'm really proud of the way it turned out. I was gonna go ahead and paint it, but I figured I'd wait until after the video before I paint it. I wanna try to make it, you know, back paint the back and then fill the top, but that could get a little messy, and I don't like painting. So, a couple of other attempts that I did, and this, guys, this is a piece of scrap material that my wife was gonna throw away, and so instead of burning it, I just used it for CNC. But this is some of the results that I was getting using the bits that came with the machine. This was an attempt at a flag, but I was trying to use one of those bits that come with the machine, and it took forever. Like, I let this run for like 6 hours, and I was ready to go to bed, and it said it had 8 hours remaining, and I just pulled the plug on it, guys, because it was painfully slow. But that was because of the bit selection, because of the tip of that bit was only removing so much material that it's having to make so many passes that it was going to take forever. This would have been one of those situations to where a roughing bit followed up by a detail bit would have definitely sped up the process. And a V-bit would have sped it up. Just using a V-bit alone would have sped it up a lot compared to that knife bit that comes with the machine. So once I finally got my little V-bits in, I went back and I tried some other text here. And as you can see, I'm getting a lot better results. Guys, this was the original text that I was doing. This text was taking me like 30 minutes. Like, seriously, this text would take 30 minutes with those little blade bits. Went with the V-bit and less than 10, less than 5. You know, it was quick. So, and I know I missed my mark on that one, guys. Like I said, I'm learning, it doesn't have a frame function. And us laser guys, you know, you're gonna miss that frame function when you're doing like sample pieces of material, because you have to actually measure and then go on your workspace and measure, and it's a lot of measuring to get it right. You can't just hit the camera and slide it over. So there's a little more involved. But I went back and did some more of the engraving with the little V-bits, and guys, it made a world of difference. Now, a couple of the engraves that I did with the little blade bit, it turned out pretty well. You know, that one, it's just not bad. That was just a little practice piece of material. And I even did this one. I used a little bit different setup, and I made this guy. And this is some more of that wood that was going to end up in the burn pile, but managed to salvage it. And this one actually turned out really, really nice, but it's really deep, and it took a long time. This I did with the little blade tip that came with it, the little blade bit that came with it. It turned out nice, but guys, we're talking like 5-6 hours for this thing. So that's why I say the tips that are the bits makes all the difference. Did this guy last night, all right? And I know it's not perfect, guys. This is not regular MDF. This is some of that stuff that they make furniture out of. It's like, it's not MDF, but it wants to be. Particle board or whatever you want to call it. But this turned out really nice. And the cool thing about it is, this thing only took like 40 minutes because I used a V-bit. Now, the text could have stood to have been a little deeper. I probably could have used a little sharper angle. I used a 60 degree on this. Probably could have got away with a 30 up here, and you know, maybe run the 60 up here, or even the 90. But that's things that I'm having to learn. So there's gonna be a learning curve, guys. Yes, I know this looks a lot like a laser. It does. They have a laser module that you can put on this machine, and I've considered getting it to be able to go back and, you know, feel some of my designs with, you know, just coloring them in with the burn. I've thought about getting that to play with, and Same Smart, if you want to send one out, be willing to try it. But that wasn't what I got this machine for necessarily. I wanted this machine to be able to do, you know, carving and CNC. I've got plenty of machines that do diode burning and stuff like that, and I'm really liking the results. I haven't got into actually like making jigs and making things with the CNC, but I know that's something I can do. I've even thought about making, you know, taking some of my designs, putting them in there, such as my leg holders for the X tool and things like that, and making those on the CNC just to see if I can do it. But I'm going to progress into that, guys. This is not going to be, you know, next month I'm turning out like major projects with this thing. I want to learn it. I want to learn it the right way. And like I said, I kind of want to bring you guys along. Now, sometime in the near future, I don't know when yet, I want to play with these new bits that I have and get a little more experience with the base machine, so I can share with you guys what to expect with the base machine before I go to changing it. But guys, check this out. This is going to make the world of difference right here. This, guys, I mean, compare this to the spindle that's on there, and you want to talk about cutting times going down, like way down. This is going to be a total game changer. I've also, because the one disadvantage that I will tell you about putting a router on one of these machines is it's kind of nice to be able to control whether the spindle is turning in easel. All right, you have a switch, you hit the button, spindle comes on. Most situations with this machine, with a router, you have to actually go over and flip the switch. Well, there is a cure for that, guys, and that's this guy. All right, this is a DC to AC relay, and I went ahead and got the one that's got the little cooling fins on it to keep it cool, because these things will get hot and that can be dangerous. But I've got to take some time, and I got to mount this, and I've got to run some wires, put me a couple of boxes. I'm going to mount a couple of utility boxes on my machine to kind of help cover this. The one thing that I did notice about this that it didn't come with, and it's kind of disappointing, is there's no like safety shield to put over this. So I've got to figure that out. I've got to work that out. And what that's going to do is enable me to take the power wires that would normally feed the spindle and use them to activate this relay, which will turn on the DeWalt. So I'm gonna be doing that to the machine once I put the DeWalt on there, depending on how long it takes me to come up with a safe way of setting this in an enclosure. I also went ahead and ordered Genmitsu's little kit of bits. And this thing comes with a bunch of different bits. And yes, guys, it does come with some V-bits. And these are actually kind of larger V-bits. These guys should be a real game changer for me. It comes with the yellow one here that is the larger size. It doesn't have the size on these for some reason. I'll have to measure those. And then this one here is a V-type sliding cutter bit, 1/4 inch by half. So that's a half inch V-bit. So this kit, I ordered it, like I said, I ordered it on Amazon, and it's got a lot of different bits. It's got the bits that I'm used to seeing in easel are in this box. So that's good. As far as the shape of them, you've got this one here that it starts out small, but it's like this is like an upcut bit. It starts off small but goes tapered out. You've got the flat bottoms, you've got the knife, you've got a round bottom bit. I mean, you've got all the bits that I've seen in easel are in this box. So I think that's going to also make it a little simpler because easel knows the characteristics of each bit. And so when I put the measurements and the type bit in there, hopefully I'm going to get better at being able to do multi-bit designs to where I run a roughing bit and then a detail bit. So I'm going to keep studying that, keep learning it, and hopefully all will go well and I'll get better at it. So, all right, guys, so that's where we're at right now with my learning into the CNC world. My friend Steve over at Vintage Workshop, you know, he's been after me for a while to get into the CNCs. He felt like it was something I would enjoy, and I think he's correct. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of learning. It's something that has a lot more dynamics to it, but it is really rewarding once you get the right configuration as far as your size and your depth and the type of font and all that. But I'm going to have to keep playing with it and learn. I do plan, hopefully, to start actually turning out some projects to try to sell with the machine, and maybe I can kind of share that with you along the way. Hopefully, for a little while, I've got a break between events. We do have some events coming up that I will be possibly setting at, but I've got a few months of prep time. So I'm going to try to master this guy and maybe get into doing some of those projects and just take those and see how they sell as well. But I just wanted to bring you along, guys, and share this with you. A lot of you have been asking me about it. I know a lot of folks in the laser community are interested in CNCs and have considered making the move over, just like I had. I had been looking at these machines. I had put them in my cart on Amazon and took them out, put them in, took them out, because I just wasn't sure, you know, what to expect. Is this something that I'm going to be able to wrap my head around? Is it going to be as enjoyable as the lasers? And guys, I will say that it's enjoyable. Now, there are things that you're going to consider also, such as dust. You know, you get more dust with these than you do, say, with a laser. My simple fix is I'm using a dust shoe. I have a shop vac hooked up to the machine. And so in the event that I start getting too much dust, I can turn the shop vac on. That is kind of loud. There's probably a quieter solution for that. I'm going to be looking into that in the future. But for now, it works. Most of the time with this machine and the current spindle, I don't even run it. I just wait until the job's over with and I turn it on and clean up the mess. It's keeping it pretty well contained to the machine. Now, this spindle is not as powerful as the router. Start using the router, it's probably going to get a little more of a mess being generated, but also the router's going to be louder and the job's not going to take as long, so the shop vac won't be such a big, annoying, loud ordeal to contend with. But so far, guys, the machine's performing well. I did find that the work area needed to be adjusted. I think I mentioned that in the previous video, but if not, just know that the 400 by 400 with the factory spindle, it's actually got a little bit wider work area than that 400. I think I'm running around 420 something currently. Now, that may change when I put the DeWalt on there, and it may be that they accounted for that when they advertised it as 400 by 400, because when you put the DeWalt on there, it is going to possibly reduce the work area slightly from left and right. But that's where we're at right now, guys. Stay tuned, hit that subscribe button, like the video, leave a comment, let me know what you think. If this is something that you want me to continue sharing with you guys, because I'm having a ball. I'm learning the machine. It's a new tool for the shack here to be able to make, products with. It's one more machine that I can have running during the day. So I'm going to keep using the machine, and if you want, I'll keep bringing you guys along and try to help you figure out if it's something that you want to get into. But if you do start looking at them, also, I'll put all of the links down below for everything that I'm using in this video. And if any of those parts, is something that you need or you want to get into it, then feel free to use those links. And as always, guys, until next time, be safe and have a good day.